guys, in this video I will be giving you all a couple tips on how to overcome test anxiety. Exam anxiety often can come in varying degrees of severity and has a very broad spectrum of symptoms as well. If you feel like you have extremely severe test anxiety or anxiety about other things as well, then please keep in mind that I'm not a super qualified health professional. I'm just an 18-year-old student making videos. So if you do have a very severe problem, please seek out help elsewhere. So first of all, you want to make sure that while you're studying, you study often and in short bursts. Because for me, like sitting down and working at like one subject for like 2.5 hours or something will really make me feel really nervous about the upcoming test that I have, because I just feel like there's so much information. So for me, it's better to break it up into smaller chunks of time. Being over-prepared can always help and never really hurt you, because if you memorize things very well and prepare yourself very well for your test, if you're really nervous when you get to the test, you have a lesser chance of just forgetting everything and drawing a blank. It kind of helps solidify like the information into almost like muscle memory, where you wouldn't be super unsure of yourself. I would also make sure you break down goals into achievable chunks as well. Same thing as time. It just helps to keep you from getting overwhelmed. I would definitely recommend widening your margin of error, and this is great for people who, like me, have really high standards for yourself and maybe a little bit of a perfectionist in terms of like test scores and wanting to make sure you're doing as well as you possibly can. For me, while I'm studying, like on say like a Quizlet flashcard set, in the test mode, I'll say like, okay, as long as I get like an 80% or better, then I can move on to the next chapter and come back and review it. If you aim for 100% perfection all the time, it can really make you anxious about not really knowing all the material. Another thing that you could do while studying several days in advance of your exam or test, you can head over to futureme.org, which I will link down below. You can send yourself an email in the future, and so you can take that opportunity to write yourself some advice, an encouraging quote, your reasons that you're studying, a challenge to yourself to be better and to push harder and work hard, or maybe just a simple good luck message. And my friends have used this site and scheduled them to send themselves an email like the night before an exam or the morning of, and that usually helps them not be nearly as nervous. Next, I have a few tips for you for the night before a test or exam that you're really nervous about. And the first one is that at all costs, you should avoid catastrophizing. When I say catastrophizing, I mean being a little bit dramatic, talking about how this test is going to determine your future, like in your entire life, thinking the world will end if you don't do well on this, and putting a ton of real dramatic pressure on yourself. And that can only make you more nervous and more anxious about a test, so avoid that at all costs. Also, you've heard this before from many people, don't cram the night before. Something that I like to do is to create early fake due dates for myself, saying like, okay, I want to be fully prepared for the test like 3 days before the actual test, and then that way I can just do some light studying from that point until the exam and not have to stress myself out. You want to make sure you're eating as much as possible and as healthily as possible, because a healthy brain means a working brain. You also want to make sure that you are well rested for the test and get a good night's sleep, at least 6 hours at the bare minimum. For the morning of the test, the first thing that you should do is obviously eat breakfast and get some good fuel in your body so you can be really alert for the test. You want to also make sure you're watching the clock, and it's always a good idea to get there early. And if you get there early, you can easily look over your notes really casually. For me, that makes me feel a little bit less nervous. For some people, it has the opposite effect, so just do what works for you. Make sure you're being as positive with yourself as possible. During the test, you want to focus on yourself. Don't compare yourself to other people, trying to glance over to see how many pages ahead they are or anything like that. You want to make sure you're just doing the best you can. And during the test, you also want to make sure you're watching the clock and that you're not spending too much time on one question or on one section, because you want to make sure you can complete as much as possible. And then, of course, before the test, you can also open up that email that you sent to yourself from the past on the futureme.org site and just read that little message of positivity or whatever you left yourself. And so I really hope this helped you all with being nervous for a test or an exam, and make sure to let me know in the comments any other types of videos you'd like me to do.